Okay, call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners, May 20th at 5:15. Joanne?
Commissioner Ernst,
Here.
Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright.
Here. Any changes to the agenda? Nope. Okay, we'll open the floor up to public requests.
Hello, Robert Ducate for the record, 5351 Northwest 3rd Terrace, Boca Raton. I want to congratulate the district on 50 years of serving the interest of the residents of the district. And I would also like to remind the commissioners that on June 8th, 2020, almost exactly 4 years ago, you received a letter from the state of Florida's Office of Attorney General with their opinion regarding your inquiry by your attorneys on whether or not the Beach and Park District, in accordance with the act that under their governing documents, has a legal authority to sell, lease, or otherwise convey real property. If the board determines that such sale, lease, or other conveyance will better enable the district to accomplish the intent of the legislation as set forth in the special act. As further clarified in their response, they point out that while some special districts have been granted specific authority to dispose of real property by their enabling special acts, the Greater Boca Raton Beach and Park District has not. The authorization to sell, lease, or otherwise convey real property owned by the district is not among the enumerated powers set forth by the special act. Now, again, you've heard me talk about this before, and it's clear that your attorneys seem to think that the word convey does not, or lease does not reflect on what you're attempting to do with the pickleball court, that a different terminology will suffice. That may be the case, but for 50 years, you have been led by different attorneys who never got involved with this. This is a major precedent, whether if it's successful or not in North Park. You have a lot of other properties, including some close to or on the beach. And I would think that if this goes through, you will be inundated with development requests based upon this precedent. I know if I was a developer, I'd be saying, look at those properties that you have that are vacant, that you have the ability, you have set a precedent to now allow for someone to come in and develop a property. They can put a couple of beach volleyball courts maybe over there, or a tennis court, or kayak rentals. Suddenly, you've got a recreational facility with a 10-story hotel, or a restaurant overlooking the ocean near coastal. So again, I think this is a serious precedent, and I hope that you will consider that when you think about what you're looking to proceed to do with your concession agreement, which looks an awful lot like a lease agreement to many people. Thank you.
How you doing? Joel Raskell of 485 Northwest 69th Street, and congratulations to you guys also on your landmark 50 years and for providing the great parks recreation fields that we do have. The one thing I want to really touch on was last meeting, Susie brought up the golf and the time. Time's your most valuable asset. Some people looked at, year or two down the road, that's going to take you to get to build the golf park, whatever in the meantime. In the meantime, though, you can, I'm not an attorney, but you should have the ability to do an RFP or RFI to get proposals and to discuss these things with the city, with the residents, because that's one thing the city asked for, specifics when this was presented, and there aren't any still, except for the east side, which I congratulate you on everything you're doing there. But, it's going to take 1.5 years, 2 years just to get a designer in there to get them scheduled to do a golf course, a golf park. And in that 1.5 years, 2 years, you can get something lined up, work with the city, and, who knows where it'll be, but when you look at it all, a year and a half down the road, there's over $1 million put in that property right now just for basically mowing the lawn and maintenance. That's not going to stop if they have something lined up in that 2 years when it ends. It's going to keep bleeding that money, unfortunately. So that's what I was going to touch on. I just encourage you guys to use this time wisely to, pursue these opportunities you do have at looking at, 'cause I can tell you right now, you will get a handful of people that would love to do something that'd be awesome in this area. And there's, more that could be added to that master plan, like Mike Profile, he's seen plenty, I bet, that could be added to it. But that's what I want to touch on, just, encourage you guys to use this time that you do have. It's an asset, not a liability. I see it as, and really just, talk to residents, the city, but, see what there is for the golf park, see what there is, the YMCA. They they wanted to do a proposal for the pickleball facility. They had a pool in there. For all you know, they want to do it on the west side, and it's going to take them 2 years to raise the money. They've already said that. So it's a timing thing for everybody, not just you guys and not just the city and the bond, but everybody, including the residents. So just want to touch on that and encourage you guys to work on that. So thank you very much again for your time and everything you do for the state, Al. Thanks.
You? Anybody else? Nope. Okay. Closing public requests, and we'll do approval of the minutes of the previous board meeting held on May 6th. Okay, Joanne?
Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang.
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, moving on to regular business. The first item is the North Park update.
Commissioners, on page 6 of your agenda packets was a memo we published on Friday, and things have changed since Friday. So just a brief update. Some of you saw the email that was sent out late Friday. The city has responded about the request for improvements on the 67th corridor, which is trying to point it out here. What? Oh no, I changed it. I don't want the arrow, I want there. Okay, so the roundabout is right in here, the circle that you see where my arrow is pointing to. So right in here is the improvements that they would like us to make. And so they've had a meeting last week and they came back, and I'll just, for those who didn't see this email, after internal discussion, the city has determined that the site plan can move forward as is. A condition of approval will be included that within a certain time period, the Beach and Park District will submit a design construction drawings for the Northwest 67th corridor, including construction estimates, timeline, etc. The improvements shall be completed at the same time as North Park. The city will cost share the improvements with the Beach and Park District. And then they just asked that we include a note on the site plan because we'll resubmit. We're going to resubmit by Wednesday. And then I followed up today, sort of kind of begging to get on the agenda for July approval. And they're going to really push to get North Park on for July approval. So then we'd be able to start getting construction documents together and build the park. So that's where we're at on the site plan. These improvements are going to be required. It's going to be a condition of approval, meaning that we will have to do, they're not going to hold us up on waiting until we design all this, but they want us to move forward, and we'll have to agree to do this as part of the development of the park. And I have Mike Kroll and Lumi Fuentes here from Miller Lake to kind of answer some of those questions. They know more about the improvements that are going to be required there, the basics that they want done in that little corridor. And they can also talk to you a little bit about the environmental. We're making a change on who's doing the environmental work. As you guys know, this was a former golf course, so the DEP has to sign off on this before we can move forward. So some of that work includes soil and water samples and reports that have to be completed before we can start that. So I'll let Mike and Lumi flesh anything out that you guys have questions on. You have to push the button there. Thank you.
Probably the easiest thing to explain is 67. So from the traffic circle east into the park, so on the north side of there we are, right from there to there. Yes.
Real quick, just provide your names for the
Oh, I'm
record,
sorry.
please.
Mike Kroll with Miller Leg. So what the city is requesting is that road be improved. So it is a divided 2-lane road. So we'll have a median in the middle. They also want sidewalks for pedestrian access on both the north side as well as the south side of that road. They also would like pedestrian signals or flashers on the east side of 2nd. So as you're crossing 62nd, north-south, there would be a notification or flashers that there were pedestrian crossings there. Also landscaping and street trees along that along 67th also would be the proposed improvements that they're requesting and making a condition of our site plan approval.
It wasn't in the email, but they did say that the city is going to apply for grants to help offset the costs, and they'll cost share the actual construction of this improvements.
Yes. So that's kind of been the last thing. We've been in a holding pattern to make sure that that was going to be a conditional approval. And they weren't going to actually have us do that design work up front for approval of the site plan. So Friday, we got that notification. So we'll wrap up the plans and get those in on Wednesday. So hopefully July, we'll get site plan approval for the project. So that's our last outstanding item.
So nothing has to be done with the roundabout itself. It's just the road mostly.
We have to look at that from an engineering perspective, but the roundabout itself will remain in place. The throat or where 67 meets the traffic circle
Mhm.
will have to be adjusted, obviously, because that road is going to be wider
Yeah.
and we'll have the pedestrian connectivity also. And also, can you zoom in at Street View? Are you able to do that? No? Well, probably, yeah, let's see. Okay. But there is one condition that's very interesting that we'll really have to look at and figure out how we're going to engineer this. At the southeast corner of the intersection there at the traffic circle in 67th, there's a utility pole right in the middle of the pedestrian access. So that's where this came up, that the city doesn't even have, adequate space for ADA accessibility to come off Second and go east right now. So that is something that's going to have to be, fixed. I guess that's the way to say that. So we really have to look at that is, can that utility pole be relocated? Can we put the pedestrian walkway and such around it in such a way that still offers access, but safe access into our site as well as going north on Second? So that's the big conundrum that we have with this, but we really will have to address that. And I'll just point. So you can see that utility pole. And for ADA accessibility, we have to have 48 inches for access for pedestrians around that pole. Right now in the current configuration with the existing drainage there, as well as the current pole location, we can't provide that access. So we have to figure out a solution for this. So that was the key thing is, if they didn't make this a condition of our acceptance of approval of site plan, we would have had to develop a design solution for that prior to even getting the site plan in and approved. So again, we don't disagree that we'd like this to be a better entrance. But again, we thought it was onerous for them to ask us to do that up front, and they did agree, and they said, we'll work with you and get you a conditional approval for the site plan. But one of the things we want to make sure is done is that we have this new entrance road designed.
Clarification. That dead end sign there is the property, the districts after that? Where is, I assume this is the northeast edge where the main entrance of this park is.
Correct.
Right? And
Yes.
so there we go. So the road that is there is where's the grand entrance of this park?
There's actually two. There's
Yep.
one here in 22nd, or I'm sorry, 67th.
That's, where is it on 67th? Where does it become ours? Yep. You guys speaking now.
So Louis, maybe you can point well on there. So. Oh, I can pick it up. Oh, look at that. Oh, Bob Barker. I feel like, just look like Bob Barker's microphone. Sorry. Showing my age. So again, this is all oh, exit. Okay. That's all city right away through there. And our entrance, so we're actually going to sign this as the entrance to our park right at the traffic circle. We're going to have a sign out there, a monument sign. Yeah, I won't touch it. Yeah. And I'm not going to get close to it. So this will be the entrance to the park. So this will be signed as the entrance to the park.
Road is the city's road.
Yes,
And then where does the park gate open? Is it
We-
back there at the end?
we will have it right here. Oh, I'm sorry, because this is an access drive here to some
Yes.
parking. So yeah, our actual entrance will be gated back here.
So the new road to get into the park and parking will go to the end. We'll have an entrance right there. It says North Park of some
Correct.
kind.
Right,
And then there'll be a road that will be built along that canal
correct,
on the top side.
correct. Here. Actually, this road will just expand.
Yep. No, I mean the other canal. Isn't that canal connecting at
Oh,
the top?
yes, yes. It comes here and then
So-
it comes into the park right here.
So you're gonna build a road that goes in there and then all of a sudden it'll turn into the parking and all
Correct.
the other amenities and stuff like that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And
And we would anticipate that we would like our monument sign for North Park to be right here. Because those who are coming up 2nd Avenue, we want to make sure that they know that this is the entrance to the park rather than have a sign for the park down the street there.
okay, and then you'll have kind of a guardrail for
Absolutely.
all along the waterway.
Yep.
Since it's gonna be
Here,
more.
here it's very, we may have adequate space. We definitely already have guardrail designed as part of that.
Is there any opportunity to have a, entrance sort of like what Sugar Sam has? I mean, at all or no?
Like a gated
Gated
entrance or-
entrance with
with
I
a-
mean, it's very nice. You know,
Ye-
you're arriving at
Well,
Sugar Sam.
that's really what, and like I say, we don't disagree with the city that they would like to make this a very nice boulevard coming into our park.
Yep.
But yeah, there's adequate space to do that for sure.
Like I noticed along the canal that Lake Worth Drainage District has pulled all the trees away from the canal uh, for obvious reasons. But you're talking about putting, you had some kind of trees or shrubs along there. Looks like you've got a narrow corridor if you're going to expand that roadway to 2 lanes. And then how are you going to have any issues with Lake Worth drainage on any type of, I know you're talking about a guardrail there, but there was also mention of some type of shrubs or trees or something along there.
Right. No, in essence, we're not going to really expand this space right here. It may be 60 feet. I anticipate we'll probably need to only expand maybe 30 or 40 feet. So we'll still have access along the Lake Worth drainage easement canal. The other thing is we're going to put street trees. We'll desire to put street trees on the north side because on the south side, and I won't zoom in, but if you stand right here and look, there's overhead power lines that are right here. So those trees that the condominiums have right here, they've been kind of hat racked, not very good for structurally for trees, but we're very limited. We really couldn't put any additional large canopy trees on the south side. So our desire is to keep the ones that the condominiums have right now, and then add street trees.
the Lake Worth Drainage District have any problem with you putting trees over there, because the reason they took those off was because in the event of a storm, debris was falling into the canals, and so they couldn't flush like they were needed to do.
Correct. And typically, I know South Florida Water Management District, they require a 30 or 40-foot setback for trees from the edge of top of bank. And that's what we would maintain. We would maintain that access. Yes.
Just to clarify, on the north side of 67th, where parallel to the canal, that's the city's right of way?
Yes. Sir. City,
It's actually a drainage easement. So that's what we're gonna, but it is under the city's,
As
Yeah.
long that's
Yeah.
my concern, that we don't have a problem with the drainage district.
correct.
Yeah.
It's the city's.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, for the big question.
Okay.
You know what's coming. How much is this?
I knew that was going to be a question, and we don't know yet. Again, I think it's going to be flushing out, what the solution is here, understanding where the alignment of the road has to be. So we really haven't put pen to paper to just develop a concept for that. Again, if our desire is to have like a little guard shack or something to make it look nice, that's something that would make this throat a little bit wider. So we really have to look at that and figure that out. I apologize. I don't have a cost for that yet, but that's something that we'll have to look at for you, let you know. And again, I don't want to speak for the city, but the city, I believe, did commit to cost sharing. And I don't know if it's a 50-50 or what it was, but I know they did commit to that.
Sharing, and then I was told that they would seek out grants to help offset the cost too.
Any update?
Were there any questions about the environmental changes? We're just switching. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to number 2, the RFQ architect engineer. Leanne.
Commissioners, on page 9 of your agenda packets, we did get 7 proposals submitted to us for the RFQ for continuing services for architect engineering and planning services. We sent you all copies of those proposals. So the next steps would be to rank and decide how you want to move forward. Staff-wise, we would just recommend that we would call references on all these firms and do a matrix, and then by the next meeting, you all could rank them. And if you so desired after that point to do interviews, we could do that. Otherwise, we could rank and award from there at the next meeting. If everybody's good with that, or if there's another suggestion, we're open to that as well.
We have some experience with some of these, and so I'm comfortable with the district staff, executive director working forward to rank them. And then if whatever's necessary going forward, can we do that?
Excuse me, if I could, Madam Chair, just as a matter of procedure, because this is a very specific process that's regulated by state law, it's called the CCNA Chapter 287. The executive director can take the delegated authority to rank and review and come back with a recommendation, but that'll require a recommendation of no fewer than 3. So at least 3 firms will be coming to the board. The board doesn't have to require or enter into a contract with 3, but the recommendation needs to become no fewer than 3 under the statute. So in order of preference. So you will see more than one option. And again, you can enter into contracts with multiple firms. So you could have contracts with, 3, 4, many as 5 or 6 firms. There's no obligation associated with any of those agreements. They're called continuing service agreements under state law. If and when projects come up, they'll essentially be a pool of qualified firms that the district can go to without having to go through a procurement process based on this process that you're currently undertaking.
And for all that, or? Okay,
So we'll move ahead with getting that matrix and the recommendation, and we'll get that for the next meeting and then vote on that. Okay, moving on to number 3, first public trim compliance hearing date.
Commissioners, we put a memo together. Last year, we followed the process of having our trim hearings after our regular public hearings, regular board meetings, because that didn't interfere with the school board or the Palm Beach County, which we cannot interfere with. It also didn't interfere with the city, which we're not required to work around their dates, but it's kind of nice for residents to have the option to go to both. So Commissioner Ernst, I do need a motion for this one, if you want to make a motion tonight. If you all are willing to adopt September, we'll just make September 2nd as our first public hearing. We're giving you the suggestion of doing the second public hearing after the regular board meeting on September 16th, but you will actually adopt that in a resolution at the first public hearing.
September 2nd is Labor Day.
September 3rd,
Yeah.
sorry. Okay, September 3rd, excuse me.
Yeah,
September 3rd,
Second is
yes.
Labor Day.
Nobody wants to work on Labor Day, got it.
On September 2nd. Now I'm.
Okay, well, now I need a motion for September 3rd. We don't need a motion on the second one. It's just a tentative plan. We'll do a resolution at the first public hearing to adopt the second date. So a motion for September 3rd.
So you need a tentative motion, or you don't need any motion?
I don't need one for that. If everybody's good, we'll follow that path forward. And if something changes, we'll adopt a different date on the resolution. But for now, we'll put these on your calendars. But I do need the motion for September 3rd.
First public hearing to be September 3rd at 6 p.m. following our regularly scheduled meeting.
Second.
Commissioner Ernst, Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright. Motion passes.
Roll on invoices, correct?
I'd like to make a motion for approval of payroll and invoices in the amount of $2,065,563.19.
Ready? Commissioner Ernst, Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Wright. Motion passes.
Reports and discussion items.
There's just a couple of updates. The playground at Patch Reef, we are finishing up comments with the city through the pre-permitting process. So we'll have that out to bid most likely by the end of next week, which means hopefully those bids will come back within about 45 days. And then we'll still planning on getting that under construction after the summer camp schedule is over. So the Patch Reef Playground is moving forward. Tomorrow we have staff meeting Mr. Kozowski out at the tower with fast signs to talk about placing those memorial signs on the tower. So that is coming close to being complete. And that'll be nice to have those signs out there in honor of Jacob Kozowski. We will be meeting with the city tomorrow to start talking about the CIP budget. So budget books will be coming to you shortly once we get those. If we get those between now and the next meeting, we'll drop those off with everybody. And then you all got your July 4th information cards in your folders, so you can decide which events you want to go to. The city has a few events going on this year for July 4th, and some are at our park, so you may want to check those out. And then the strategic planning for the city is also this week if anybody's interested in attending or watching those online. And that's all I have.
Okay. Michael?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to follow up on the discussion regarding North Park, as the commission's aware, we are continuing to work through the concession agreement with Malcolm Butters and his legal team. We shared a revised draft with their legal counsel last week. We're waiting for some follow-up comments. We're continuing to iron out all of the open issues, of which very few remain. I know you all have received the draft. Just be mindful that the draft of the document that you currently have is a working draft. We do anticipate some changes, and we will continue to update the board further as we proceed. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Steve, you want to go first?
Actually, I have a question for Jake. Is there a precedent established for the Beach and Park District for a concession agreement with an outside vendor for use of Beach and Park District property?
Yeah.
What I'm thinking of is the steakhouse that used to be here.
Yeah, the YMCA management agreement is the closest one and the first one that came to mind from my perspective. It's not a concession agreement, which is a separate legal document, but it is a management agreement. You may recall, I think, 2 years ago, round numbers, we had prepared a legal memorandum to the board, which
Mhm.
laid out a number of different potential options that would work given the limitations under our charter, which Mr. Decate referenced earlier. We happen to agree with his interpretation of the AG's opinion.
I think the management agreement was one of those options, which is utilized in the YMCA scenario. This is a little different. Concession agreement is no less available given our charter language, but it is structured a little differently. I'm not aware of the Beach and Park District having a concession agreement, but they are not uncommon, certainly in South Florida.
Yeah, just for the record, before this building was erected, there was a steakhouse on this property. I think it was called Russell's. Chuck's. There was a U in it, so it was close. And this having been or being Beach and Park District property, there had to be some kind of financial arrangement there. So I just want to make sure we have all our ducks in a row. Another thing also, was made aware, and I made Brianna aware of this, there's a federal program now whereby special taxing districts can receive grants. So I asked Brianne to look into that and see what, if anything at all, is available to us. It could be an entirely new source of funding. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Craig.
I was going to mention the concession agreement that Chuck Steakhouse is NY or precedent, I guess, if there is such a thing. But I guess I would also remind everyone that we're not doing this out of generosity and good stuff. There's a huge investment by the investor, and the intent was to save taxpayer money and not, spending $16 million ourselves, which is a lot for our budget to absorb to add anything like this. So we take it under very careful consideration, I think, to enter something like this with the hopes that it's successful as a community asset and that it's not it's still for the community. So we eliminated the membership kind of concepts of it. And so I think there's work to go and let it play out. The second thing I want to mention as far as public comments go was, I've shared how long can things go on? It takes a long time to do things. And unfortunately, I know for a fact that Brianne has got a lot on her plate. The whole team has a lot on their plate. So it's not that easy to add things. It just takes an inordinate amount of time to work with something with the city. Here we are, North Park, how many years later? I mean, it's taken a long time. But I would be optimistic that this is not a one-man show. It really needs the city buy-in, and we need that city joint meeting and commitment from the city. And I get the sense that there is buy-in, there is direction, and that this between the city and Brianne, we've got movement on things so that things could possibly go faster. So maybe you can add to that. I don't know if there's, as you come back to it. The other thing as we get into the budget meeting of everything, I'd like us to give consideration to supporting rugby fields. And, we've done a phenomenal job of supporting those sports that are in need. And the rugby players are continuing to do what they said they would do with a very large team, and they've become very well recognized. And it permeates into the sports, for across the board. It's a little different. As one sport dies, another one grows. This is one that continues to be growing. And if we could support it in some way or form, that would be really good. Talking to my predecessor, Mr. Frisch, Dr. Frisch, he suggested the former site off 18th Street that was, I guess, a rest area. And I thought, well, that looks like a good idea. It's pretty much an unused property, but it was something I think we as a district, if we could get behind working with the city to fund and do something easier, that would be really good to do for the community. And lastly, on the North Park, I like what you've told us is a very narrow area to work with, but I would hope that it really formulates into an entrance that is gated and grand. I don't know what that means, but I think it really, as all of our sugar sand is nice because it is kind of locked in on all the sides. And I think that's important, but the entrance of it is equally important. I get it. We got 4 quadrants that are very different, and they're going to be different entrances. But if this is our main entrance, we really got to make sure whether it's in the upfront or in the back, whether we need a guard gate, I don't know. But I would think that that's really got to be well done. So if it needs to be well done, then I think, let's work with our partners at the city to do it right, whatever it has to be done, because we're already in it this far. So let's make sure it looks good. That's all I have.
Third, there's not much left for me to say. Except that, I agree with what, Craig's had to say about, having so much on our plate. We do, and there's so many demands on our revenue, which we are physically prudent with it, thanks to our treasurer monitoring our expenses. But I think that trying to get too much on our plate, will result in some slippage if we're not careful and monitoring. I know Breanne has been real good about keeping us up to date on specifics of the plan, and I've read through that agreement that we had on the pickleball facility at North Park, and it's very comprehensive. There's a lot of details in there. It's still yet to be thought out, and I suggested to Breanne too that we ask our insurance company to help with the insurance provisions in the lease. I could do it, but I don't feel comfortable on something of this magnitude. I will offer some suggestions later on after we hear from them. And then to Craig's point too, is that the facility that we're talking about, the pickleball facility, if we had to use our own funds for doing it, it would be probably another 2 to 4 years down the road before we would have this project anywhere close to where we are today. So I think with the resources that we have, we do a pretty darn good job of budgeting for that. And I also have hopes at some point that we have a field house in the budget, which is sorely in need. The field house at Sugar Sand Park is in constant use by any number of different groups. And the final thing, I did talk to Harold Chaffee today about Barbara, and she's, she had her surgery, and she's will begin chemotherapy shortly, and she's able to eat a little bit and keep food down, which was good. And she got on the line. She sounded real good. She's feeling better, getting stronger, and so we're a shout out to Harold and Barbara, and hope they're doing well, and keep them in our prayers and our thoughts.
Did you talk to Harold? Ditto. We will keep both of them in our prayers and in our thoughts. I have nothing.
Just on like the timeline for North Park, I just want to say what a great job our staff and Miller Lake has done on this project. We've heard numerous times that the city process takes a long time, and I don't think it's due to Miller Lake, and I don't think it's due to our staff. So I just want to reiterate that. And I think we're pretty much on the timeline that you guys gave us from the beginning. We know this is going to take a while. So again, we have to be patient. Things don't happen overnight when you're working in the city of Boca. So, but I do just want to give you guys the credit where credit is due on that. So, and besides that, happy Memorial Day to everybody. Enjoy your long weekend. And that's it.
To adjourn.
Commissioner Engel.
Yeah.
Commissioner Rollins. Commissioner Vogelsang. Commissioner Wright. Motion passes.